All right, 11:30. If the clerk will call the roll.
Oh, yeah, hold on, please. Senator Barfoot, Senator Carnley, Senator Coleman, Senator Elliott, Senator Hatcher, Senator Hobie, Senator Jones, Senator Kitchens, Senator Livingston, Senator Price, Senator Roberts, Senator Singleton, Senator Smitherman, Senator Wagner, Senator Williams, Senator Shelnutt.
Here. All right, we have 11 members present. Thank you all for all showing up on time. And first bill on the calendar is HB 21 by Representative Brown. Representative Brown, welcome. Banking and Insurance. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I have House Bill 21, which is deals with genetic privacy and DNA. Mainly, what it does, it just prevents from your DNA being sold to a third party without your knowledge. It just says that they have to inform you if it is sold to a third party, or they have to notify you of their privacy standards, that sort of thing.
Smitherman.
Hey, Senator.
Am I correct in assuming that at this moment you and I are here together?
We are, unless we're in the matrix.
I can talk like that. You see, you the genetic man. They talk all that we are and we aren't together. But are you saying to me that these folk can take folks' stuff and sell it without their permission?
They can.
Do you have in here to change that? I mean, because these folk private stuff, ain't it?
That's right. That's
Well, how
essentially
some
selling
company
part of
gonna
your
get
body.
permission
obtain
to sell somebody private stuff. I mean, I ain't talking. I like what you putting in here, saying they notified and all that. But still, the bottom line, after they being notified, unless they, come get somebody like me that lawyer, and pay them that these folks can say you need to. I ain't telling you what to do. I'm giving you a suggestion.
Sure.
I need a suggestion that you could have an amendment, or we get one that said these folks can't sell nobody's stuff unless they get their permission.
Well, that's what this does.
I'm talking about no kind of way they can sell it. Because I heard you say in your opening, well, you know what you said. I don't have
Yeah. Well, some people might want to.
I took that, and that's why I'm saying what I'm saying now, because that didn't quite clear to me that said that they can't sell their stuff.
This would allow them to do that if you gave permission to sell it to a third party, or for testing, or for to run numbers on a general population, that sort of thing, then, and you gave your specific permission for that, then they could do that.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, if the person who it belongs to say okay.
Right.
But
that's what this does. But it does say that they can't do it without your specific permission. They have to notify you of their policies. They have to be posted. They have to tell you what their policies are so that you can read them and you understand, hey, you're essentially selling my DNA to a third party that I'm not aware of. I don't know what they're going to do with it, that sort of thing.
Okay, but when we pass this bill, the only way they can get their hands on it is the person who it belongs to, they have to say okay.
Correct. Yes, Senator.
All right. It do have any penalties if somebody try to steal it?
It does. It has I think it's up $3,000 per violation.
What about jail? Do they go to jail?
That's not in here. You'd have to take file a civil suit against them, I would imagine.
Okay. Now, if somebody brought a jail amendment, would you go along with it?
I'd look at it.
No, wait a minute now. Do you want me just to look at it today?
Well,
do you want me, all I do is just look at this? Don't answer that. I ain't going to put you on the spot like that.
Thanks,
I won't
Senator.
do that. Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Yes, sir.
I won't do that.
Thank you, Senator Smith. Before we have some more discussion, I have an agreed upon amendment I would like to offer.
I'd like to
I have a
second it.
second by Senator Williams.
What did you do?
We're going to let him explain it.
Yeah, what this does, it just corrects some of the nuances in the language to go. There's several of these bills that have acted independently. Like this one was just my bill. I just came up with this, but the Council of State Governments has legislation in many states and that does this same thing. And what this does, it just corrects some of the terminology to go in line with theirs. And then also from a marketing standpoint, it doesn't prevent those services like Ancestry and Me and I don't know,
I know what you're saying.
yeah, all those online things from being able to ask you if you want to upsell you. You know, you want to buy the Supreme package or the multiple package or the whatever, and that's what's in there that allows them to do that.
Mr. Chairman, could we have it read, the amendment, just to see what it sound like?
Okay. Clerk, will you read the
Oh, that's a
amendment?
2-page amendment?
It's
Three.
3.
No, I'll withdraw that for the clerk.
Yes, sir.
I'm thinking about the clerk. I ain't gonna put you through it. I'll read
mind.
it. Just get me a copy. I'll read it.
It's in your packet right there.
All
Okay,
right, so
I'll read it.
all those in favor say aye.
Second.
Aye.
Second.
We have a second.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the clerk wants a good roll, so we'll take the long roll.
Thank you. Senator Barfoot, Senator Carnley, Senator Coleman, Senator Elliott, Senator Hatcher, Senator Hovey, Senator Jones, Senator Kitchens, Senator Livingston, Senator Price, Senator Roberts, Senator Singleton,
Aye.
Senator Smitherman,
Aye.
Senator Wagner, Senator Williams, Senator Shellnut.
All right, the amendment received a favorable report and is adopted. Before we move on, Senator Roberts, I believe, wanted to make a couple comments.
I want to follow up with Senator Smitherman. We talked about this even yesterday, if you remember, on the floor. I thank you, Representative Brown, for bringing this, but it is a critical issue that we're talking about. You're talking about affecting people's ability to buy life insurance the rest of their lives. And, you know, we talked about some of the Hill Stick that we'll see probably tomorrow that you'll handle. It's a big deal, so thank you for your wariness. I am equally wary, and I appreciate your doing this, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Move for favor report. Second.
I got a motion to move for favorable report as amended and a second by Senator Smitherman. Using previous roll, no objection.
No objection.
All right. HB 21 receives a favorable report as amended. Thank you,
Thank you, Mr.
Representative
Chairman.
Brown.
Thank you, Mr.
Senator Smitherman.
If you don't mind,
Yes, sir.
good report down there to the house. We treated the house with love.
I know this. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
All right, moving on, we have the Honorable Senator Melson, SB 281. Sir, welcome to B&I.
Hey, thank you, sir. I think this is my first time in front of your committee in all these years, so thank you very much. What this bill is pretty straightforward. As you know, merchandise sellers, retailers currently keep a code called the MCC code, and they can track your information of what you buy and purchase. And just like you said a minute ago, a lot of that should be not done without your personal information. This just restricts it to firearms, but we're probably going to need to look in the future. I mean, if Dan wants to buy a Bible and nobody needs to have a record of what he purchases, Senator Price wants to buy a bottle of liquor, it's nobody else's business. You know, so
Hennessy.
so it's about privacy and not being able to track people with firearms in their home. Based on this, they still have to do background checks and follow all the federal.
Senator Smitherman.
Favor report.
Second.
I have a motion by Senator Smitherman and a second by Senator Elliott. But before that, I want to thank the senator for working with me. We're working on an amendment before it hits the floor. We're going to work out some issues out. But all those using previous roll, if no objection. All right. So SB 281 receives a favorable report. Thank you, Senator Melson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next up, SB 313, and we're just going to have a public hearing, members. Just want to let y'all know we're not voting on this, so we're just going to have a public hearing, and I think we have a few people signed up. We're going to limit to 3 minutes per speaker.
But I'm with you on it.
First up as a proponent is Mr. DeGraffenreid. Sorry,
It's
sorry.
fine.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
fine. They could explain it better than I can anyway.
Senator Singleton, would you like to explain your bill?
Well, this bill comes, as ambulance services are out there, and I'm seeing fewer and fewer ambulance services and being providers, and especially in my area, in rural areas. That's why I really wanted to bring this bill. Simply because what I'm hearing about is a lot of what we call surprise billing, where the insurer they only pay so much, and then the insurer then turns around and get a big bill from them, thinking that their insurance has paid for the ambulance service, and now they got a big bill coming back to them because the provider only paid so much money, and they call it a surprise billing. And in a lot of my rural areas where you got maybe one ambulance per county, because you don't have local dollars to help offset any of those costs or what have you. But what I will turn it over to Mr. Ryan DeGraff and Reed in the Ambulance Association so they can explain it a little bit more in terms of what they do. While I do know the bill, but I allow them to continue to express that.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeGraff and Reed. And like I said, 3 minutes, and Katie will let you know when it gets
Do that.
close.
I have no doubt. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Ryan DeGraff, and Reed, represent the Alabama Ambulance Association. This bill is to address the practice called balance billing. Senator Williams, I know you mentioned this at a previous meeting, but what balance billing is let's just say, for example, that Ryan's ambulance service goes to pick up Senator Shelnut and charges a fee for, to do that. If I'm an out-of-network provider, if he's a Blue Cross insured, then I, as the provider, will get a reimbursement rate. And then I can balance bill, send the bill to the person who was treated for the difference between what I charged and what I was reimbursed for, and that's called balance billing, which we as an association think is bad public policy. When an ambulance shows up, you don't know whether they're in-network or out-of-network. In-network versus out-of-network, what does that mean? Well, if you're in-network, you've entered into a contractual obligation or contractual agreement with a health insurer, whereby you negotiate the rates to go pick up or transport somebody that needs emergency medical services. If you're out of network, you don't have that contractual relationship. And as a result, you get a decreased reimbursement rate. But in addition to that, you don't have any obligation in your contractual obligation that prohibits you from balance billing. Well, prior to 2018, there was no such thing as in-network for ground ambulance services. Everybody was out of network. And one of the reasons that the parties were negotiated coming into network was the complaints over the balance billing practice. There's two people that get called when balance billing occurs, the ambulance company and the insurance company. Why didn't you provide me the coverage that I think I'm entitled to? So at least in part that led to discussions between the groups, and about 90% of the in-state Alabama ambulance providers came into network. Well, from 2013 to 2018, every year, the out-of-network providers, everybody was out of network back then, got an increase in their reimbursement rate. And depending upon the billing code, whatever service you provide, that was anywhere
1 minute left.
40 to 70%. When all the parties came into network in 2023, didn't get an increase in the reimbursement rate until the end of 2023, which was 4.5%. Our costs have exploded since COVID. And as a result of that, if we don't have the revenue to support the needs of Alabamians, we're having to withdraw services. And as a result, people are dying because when you call 911, you can't be guaranteed that somebody's going to be there in a timely manner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, next up, opponent side is Mr. Ted Hosp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, sponsor, members of the committee, Ted Hosp with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama. With respect to this, both the sponsor and my friend, Mr. DeGraff and Reed, this is not a balance billing piece of legislation. This is a rate-setting piece of legislation. It would set the reimbursement rate for ground ambulance services at 325% of the Medicare rate. Now, you all know this, but at Blue Cross, we have a very difficult task of balancing two constant but diametrically opposed interests. Our healthcare partners want to be paid more, and our customers want to pay lower premiums. So for that reason, we're constantly trying to balance those two issues, premiums and reimbursements, and trying to find the right place for those numbers. You know this, but it bears repeating. When costs go up, premiums go up. Measures like this that ask the government to set a higher reimbursement rate to a class of providers requires us to increase the premiums that we charge our customers. There's no other place for us to get that money. Now, without question, there are heartbreaking stories about families and communities that have lost loved ones because an ambulance didn't get there on time. And those are true tragedies, but this bill would not ensure that any of those communities received any more services or providers. This is just an increase in payments and costs and the hope that more services and providers will follow. The truth is that today in Alabama, the ground ambulance reimbursement rates are 12% higher than the regional average. This bill would make them more than 250% higher than that average. And it will cost Blue Cross customers, employers and their employees, approximately $52 million every year. Now today, nearly every ground ambulance provider in Alabama is in network. The only major out-of-network provider we have, not surprisingly, is owned by a private equity firm whose
1 minute
primary
left.
interest is in maximizing the short-term profits for their investors. There are very few out-of-network trips in Alabama today, less than 10%. Again, most providers have accepted that rate that is higher, that's about 12% higher than the average rate. This bill will benefit the private equity firms that are out of network just as much, if not more, as the local companies, and will not ensure that anyone receives any additional services. Government overriding the market to impose higher payments for health care sets a very dangerous precedent, because what will you say when the next set of providers comes to you? What will you say to the hospitals or the doctors or the chiropractors or the dentists? Once you start down this road of becoming a rate-setting body, you put yourselves not just in charge of what the providers will receive in reimbursement, but also in charge of what the premium payers are going to have to pay for their coverage. We urge you to reject this.
Your time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. Senator Smitherman, do you have a comment, question? Okay. All right, next up, we have Mr. Eric Penley.
Thank you, Chairman, Committee. Eric Penley, the President of the Alabama Ambulance Association. Yes, these rates, we are needing these in legislation. We have tried to work over the past 2 or 3 years to try to rebuild. Our association had like 20 members 2 or 3 years ago. We're all volunteer. We can afford one lobbyist, not 18. We're working to rebuild this. You guys helped us pass the Medicaid provider tax a couple years ago. That's made a tremendous difference. But we're limited to our cost, and our cost is limited to payments. We don't get any kind of government funding, right? So, we see that we have the lowest rates in the Southeast in commercial. We know that Louisiana had providers that were already getting 300% of CMS before they passed their legislation at 325. So I get frustrated talking with numbers and money because you know what? I grew up as an EMT and paramedic. I want to help people. I want to save lives. I want to talk about the stories. I want to talk about in Jefferson County, a 1-year-old that got into some fentanyl, an hour to get an ambulance there. Is that right for that kid in Alabama in 2023? We only have enough resources to put 2 or 3 paramedics there. Pickens County, we talked about it, 2 young boys watched their dad sit there and suffer and die after they called 911 and struggled to breathe. We went and visited with those legislators there. That local service only had enough to fund 1 paramedic there because of reimbursement rates. We have met with Blue Cross several times over the last 2 years, 5 years without any kind of increase. We had other commercial insurers that has increased 100%. We just need help there, and it's 12% of our payer mix. We just need some help there. If they're not going to negotiate, where are we going to get the regulation at? That's why we need to set it here. Jefferson County every day, talk to the 911 director. 2 to 5 calls every day go unanswered. Not enough ambulances or paramedics in that county where you would think you have premier health care, correctly? 2 to 5 every day.
1 minute left.
Actually went and picked up a stroke patient in his private vehicle and carried that. That's happening all across this state. That's why we got to set these rates like other states did, for we can afford to pay $30 to $35 for these paramedics that the hospital has now paid those to move those patients to clinics and hospitals instead of in the field. That's what sickens me is we're talking about numbers. We got people dying, and we got to fix that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penley. All right, next up, Nia Scott.
Good morning. My name is Nia Scott, and I'm the Legislative Counsel for RSA and PHIP, and I also have with me the Director for PHIP, Dave Wells. We are concerned about setting the reimbursement rates and statutes for providers, just like Ted said. PHIP covers roughly 300,000 lives of active and retired education employees and their dependents. And as my FNTE committee members may know, we've gone 9 years of requesting level funding from the employers, which is mainly funded through the ETF, and those rates are set by you in the budgets. And the main way that we've been able to do that is by managing our cost through negotiations of reimbursements through our vendors and other cost-saving strategies. And so this reimbursement rate increase would increase our cost by $4.5 million, and that's the main reason we're opposed to the bill. But the bigger concern that we have is, like Ted said, who's next? What other larger provider may be out there, and how much would that increase our cost? The only place that we can come to fund PHIP is either to you or to the members, and we just want to make sure that we can provide the best benefit at the most affordable cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Smitherman, did you have a question, comment? Any other members have question or comments? We have Senator Cornley.
So I appreciate both sides and appreciate what you do. And, you know, I served on our EMS board back home, and we're a rural county. And, you know, on that board, we had our own vehicles and had our own employees, and we saw the struggle, you know, I mean, to try to get those qualified people that could show up to the scene of an accident and or an emergency and take care of that person. So we ended up working with another provider, and I've got a few of those people here today. And, you know, it helped our community because they had more resources that we as an independent provider couldn't do. And I know it's hard. I mean, this is a very complex issue. It's not something where one party is all at fault and the other is, you know, the victim of it. I think there's work to do together, and you know, I appreciate both groups coming together. But as somebody that's in a rural county, you know, and we get a lot of people moving out of the city that want a little piece of, you know, a farm. They want to live in the rural community, but they expect those same services that are in the municipality to follow them out there. You know, as a county, we have. When I was on the county commission, we have an emergency fee that's collected, and we share that with our providers to help offset. So, you know, as a community, we're trying to invest into those. I'm done. I'll quit. But, you know, I guess this is an important issue that.
I move to suspend the rules.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, Senator. But, you know, it's a vital issue because I tell people you don't care about this issue until it's your family member. Right. And then that's when you're going to be all upset and you want to change the rules, but it's too late. You know, and I see both sides and definitely want to work with both sides. As an insurance person, I tell people the more coverage you want, the more premium you pay. You know, and I think that's something that, you know, is just unfortunate because like Ted said, you know, they represent both sides of the spectrum. They got the customer, you know, as an employer, I provide, you know, Blue Cross Blue Shield to my employees. It gets expensive. Every year it seems to get a little more and a little more. But they also represent the insured. I mean, our hospitals are constantly coming and saying, we need more for the services we provide. And I get it. I'm glad that they're the ones, you know, tasked with that. But just really ask that both groups would sit down, try to come to something. I agree, you know, legislating this is probably a tough task and could go down a dangerous path. But, you know, I think if they see good faith coming in negotiations that we could avoid maybe having to legislate, you know, what those payments are. But, you know, thank you for bringing this. I think it brings attention to an issue that really is, you know, is magnified in our area. And again, I tell people, you know, when ambulances show up, you know, at least the ones in our area, they come with blood on board. They've got probably as many prescription or many drugs as a pharmacy has. So it's not like they're just coming out there to throw you on a gurney and take you to a hospital. I mean, they are providing life-saving services, you know, to our constituents, and I appreciate what they do. and, you know, just really want to work together to come up with a common solution to this problem. But I appreciate you bringing it. Thank you for the time.
Senator Singleton.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you for those words. While I understand that there's a difficulty in balancing this, but at the end of the day, it's about people's lives and saving lives. We could try to save money and save $4 million here, profits over here, over there, but that's no value to a family member losing a life simply because no one will come at 911. It's $4 million worth what they talk about at PHIP over somebody's life. It's what Blue Cross talk about. It's the 325% because they don't want to do it or raise a cost. I think about that life, that 1-year-old baby, that child. I saw during COVID, we had an ambulance to run with a COVID patient. The motor blew up in the ambulance. You know, those kind of things are out there because local dollars are just not there to help with what we're doing. And when you start talking about reimbursement fees, we just got to make sure that there's that balance. And I understand what they're saying also, but I do want people to come to the table and be genuine and talk about coming up with that balance, and not to hear today to have this public hearing, then walk away and we say, well, let's go sit down at the table, and then they don't want to sit down and talk because you control the market. And when that happens, then all of us suffer at the end of the day because we're going to lose lives. And like you're saying, in my county, you know, I have 2 ambulances in my county. If one is tied up, the other one on emergency, if somebody, a third person have a heart attack, they just dead. They dead. You know, and so, and you would think in Jefferson County, where it's a larger county, that you would have that. So I think if this bill is not the solution, then let's try to find a way to make it work if this bill is not the solution. I don't profess that this is the end all to all that makes it work, but I think it's a piece that we can put on the table and have conversations. And if they're not serious about having those conversations, then I think we as the legislature need to then solve that problem. Thank you very much.
Senator Smitherman.
Ditto. Thank you.
Oh, Ted, did you have a question or comment before we adjourn?
Respond to the senator and say that we absolutely want to be a part of a solution for this. We do recognize at Blue Cross that there are portions of the state that have a shortage of providers, you know, and we do commit to doing our best to try to address those. I wanted to mention, I think the comment was that Blue Cross is about 12% of the payer base for this level type of service. So from that perspective, I think we actually do not control this market. The largest payer is Medicare, I think. But we absolutely do want to sit down, make sure that we can try to figure out something to address the issue.
Thank you, Ted. All right, thank you, members, and this meeting is adjourned. Carried over. Favorable report.